Hey, let's talk about combination squares today. So, I've had quite a few questions recently, and in the past for that matter, about my various combination squares. This long one, I don't use it very often. I use it more for a straight edge, but I do keep it around. Somebody give it to me, and the threads are stripped out here where the scratch all goes, and I keep forgetting to put a piece of tape around it. So I just leave this one in the box basically as a straight edge, but that's really the longest combination square I have. Now, the question was, how accurate are they? No, they're not as square as a fixed square, such as a speed square. The most accurate combination squares are like your Stewart or Starrett mold maker squares. They're very heavy. I had one in my hands about 10 years ago. It's the only time I've ever had a hold of one. I believe the whole thing was made out of tooled steel because it was quite heavy. But when you took it loose, see how this one moves? You can hear it clicking. And even when it's tight, you can feel a little something in there. That one did not do that. You could have pushed a button on it and slid it, and it would have stayed perfectly tight. But that's the difference. These are good, quick, fast production. They're for laying out, doing basic layout, measuring, that sort of thing, more than they are for being perfectly square. But for most framing, woodwork, that kind of thing, they're fine. For metalwork, they're okay. You just got to be careful with them. Now, another question is how to tell if it's square or not. Well, as a general rule, the closer you stay to the 90 degree right here, the more accurate it is. So if you've got it pulled back like this, and whatever you stick in there is going to be fairly square. And if the longer whatever you're touching it against is, the more square it's going to be. But if you run it all the way out, and you want to leave a little tail out here, something I always do is I push down, let me get under it, I squeeze and tighten it. And it's not super tight, it's just good and finger tight. It takes some of the play out, but it gives it a better chance of being more level because this is a joint and it can move. But if you were to take this, let's see what I got laying around here. I'll grab this piece of wood from another video here. This end's obviously not square. This was just chopped off real quick with a handsaw. But let's pretend this is square and that this piece of wood is narrower than the length of this combination square. If you go up here and make a line across this square, and then you flip the square to the other side and draw a line, sometimes you'll see that it makes an X. And that'll tell you that it's in on the square here a little bit. That's a quick way to tell. But before you do that, you need a piece of factory metal so you know you got square edges, or run a piece of wood through your table saw or your buddy's table saw and check your square. But it's still going to be fine for basic things. Now, when I'm using them for metal layout, it gives me a 90, it gives me a 45, and the main thing I do with them, and y'all have seen me use the little one in some of the videos, I will take this and use it to set the depth to cut across the end of a piece. Let's just say this was a piece of metal I wanted to cut. Then I can just go here and mark, get down here and mark if I don't have a chalk line or something, a long enough straight edge with me to lay something out. That's primarily what I use this for. The other thing I use this one for, and if you put it on a flat piece of metal, and I've checked this one a couple of times, if you put this on a flat piece of something smooth and you go ahead and lock it down, this is for the most part vertical to that surface, perpendicular to that surface, and vertical as well to itself. So you could use it to set blade angles, set the mill, set drills, things like that. You see me do that in my Evolution chop saw, cold cut saw video when I was first setting it up, when I first took it out of the box. This is the little square I used to make sure the blade was square to the surface. Another thing I use them for, doing layout work and I need to be under a car or under a dash and I got to try to find a spot, or I want to make sure I got a hole in the right place. I can put this side up against whatever I'm working on. I leave a little hangout on this so that I got something for it to sit against. And I usually make a point to know rather that's 1/8 inch, and usually that's what I leave as 1/8 because it's easier. I can sit this here, put a rubber band through this low spot, down through the wedge made here, the mouth made here for the 45. That'll hold this tight, and I can go up in there and I can slide along, and I know where my zero's at, or I know where my center's at, and I know how far I am from that side, and I can mark my point. You could do the same thing with a pair of tape measures. I just find this a little easier when I'm hanging upside down, working up in tight spaces. I could just grab it, get it with my thumb if nothing else. Here I am, I can slide my pencil in, I can see what I need to do, and I got room to work. Just another help you work into 3D, well, two-dimensional kind of there, but because you're not worried about this way, you're just worried about this way and this way. Things that you could do with a square. There's plenty of other videos out here on YouTube about them, but I've had enough questions asked, I thought I would go ahead and just give a quick opinion on them. These are in my main toolbox. They travel with me when I go places. They're always within grabbing distance. Like I say, I keep the long one put away and only use it now and again. So there you go. I hope you find that helpful, entertaining, interesting, informational. As always, practice your skills, learn a new one, turn it into craftsmanship. Either way, you never know how far it's going to take you. Think outside the box with your skills and your tools. So until next time, this has been Fab Race Mod Repeat. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.